right, so what's the goal of the process of taking photographs? What is our goal here? Our goal is to remember three very important things: our f-stop, shutter speed, and ISO. Those are the three fundamental numbers and building blocks to creating a good photograph. Now, your lens does matter, right? Or else we wouldn't have, 5 different kinds of lenses we can use. And depending on the kind of lens you have, you also may not have all of the f-stops available to you. And there's a whole lesson on f-stops and shutter speeds. You'll get that within the first 2 to 3 weeks of class. So on the front of your lens, you have some numbers. I want you to take a look at your lens and compare these. We have 50 millimeters. We know this is a 50 millimeter lens. We also have that number there. And then we have a 1, a colon, and a 1.8. Your 1, colon, and 1.8 might be listed somewhere else. Let's look at it on another lens. On this lens, it is a 1, let's see if I can get that in focus. Right over here in the corner, 1 to 4, right? It's a 24 millimeter to 105 millimeter zoom lens, and it has 1, colon, 4. Now, what does that mean? The number on this lens is 1.8. That means that the widest open f-stop that I can open up my lens to is a 1.8. And so let me show you where that is here. That corresponds to this number here, 1.8. Okay? So 1.8 is a very wide open f-stop. Okay, it's very open, meaning it lets in a lot of light. And the f-stop is located inside your lens. That's why the number was different, right? The number on this one is different. 1, colon, let me get into focus, 4-5.6, and this one was 1, colon, 4. Because they're different lenses, and their maximum aperture, or the widest open aperture that they can open up to, is different. So on this one, it has a really wide maximum aperture of 1.8 right there. That means it can let in a whole lot of light. It also creates shallow depth of field, which you'll learn about. Once I have chosen an f-stop to start with, if I'm going to take a picture right now, I have to choose from my shutter speed here, this number, which is actually a fraction. You're just seeing the bottom number of that fraction, okay? And then the f number, and then your ISO. So I have chosen ISO, start with that. I'm in low light situation, so I chose a really high ISO. And then I'm choosing a wide open f-stop, okay, at 1.8. You might choose f4 or 5.6, okay? So you can change that number to a low number. The lowest number you can go to would be good. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're not going to just guess about this number. This is wrong, okay? It depends on what your camera is seeing over here, where my hand is. So your camera reads the light through the lens when I press down halfway on this shutter button. It's doing two things. It's focusing and it's taking a light reading. Now this symbol right here, if I can kind of hold this up, and it can take a light reading off of my hand, and it's pointed to the +2, right? Now I'm going to put something dark. I've got this pencil case. So I'm going to put that in front of my lens, and it's going to change. Watch. Now it was on the minus side. Put that back there because it's not reflecting back as much light because the object that it's reading light off of is dark. So it's on the minus side. So that's your light meter that you're looking at. Now, if I take that away, it's looking at something bright over here. There's a box just out of frame that you can't see. And so what I need to do is get that light meter to be right in the middle, right? I need to get that little light indicator to indicate underneath that shield kind of looking symbol. You might have a circle, you might have a triangle, but it needs to be right under there. So to do that, I'm not going to change this number or this number. I'm going to keep those the same, steady, but I am going to change my shutter speed. If I'm on the plus side, I'm going to take my shutter speed and I'm just going to change it randomly So if I go this way, it's getting blinking now on the plus side. That's no good. That means too bright, way too bright, overexposed. That's why it's a plus sign. It means too much. Okay, so I'm going to make my number. Remember, this is a fraction, so it's 1 over 60, 1 over 250. I'm taking a light reading every time too. 1 over 500 and 1 over 800th of a second. Okay? Now 1 over 800th of a second is a fast shutter speed. It's not really necessary for right now, but it gets the job done. All right, so if I were to take a picture right now, I would have a good exposure. But what I want to do is point it this way so that it can actually focus. Because listen, there's a box just like 2-3 inches out of frame here, and that's too close for my lens to focus. So if your object is very close to your lens, it can't focus. I want you to keep that in mind. So you've got to have your object at least 12 inches away, at least 1 foot away from your lens before it can actually even focus. So I've got another lens just out of frame, okay? I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to look through my viewfinder. I can put on my little LCD display, right? Because it's a live view, so you can see, you can even see the box. It's blurry, but it's there. And that way I don't have to put my face in the camera, but I can focus on this. Focus, and look at my light meter. So I'm going to change my, let's move that over. I'm going to change my shutter speed just a tad to try to get that right in the center. Since I'm on a table, it's real easy to do because this isn't moving and neither is my subject. So now I'm going to focus and make sure that my focus dot is on the subject. And it looks pretty good. This is the photograph that I took. Okay, so that is a really, really quick synopsis of what you're going to learn in this class. How to understand your shutter speed and what it does, how to understand your f-stop and what it does, and your ISO and what its purpose is. Those are the 3 main things. Now, before I go, I want to be sure to talk about focusing. So on a Canon, I'm sorry, because mine is a Canon, it's real easy. I can change my focus dots very, very easily as long as I'm on autofocus. I can press this button right here that has that symbol above it, and this comes up. And then I just use the dial up here to move it around. And now wherever that is where my camera will focus. And I can see that dot light up through my viewfinder, which is this part right here. All the times while we take images, we're going to put this viewfinder right up to our eye and use that. And all of these numbers that I've been showing you, your shutter speed, f-stop, your ISO, your focusing dots, all of that shows up in your viewfinder. So it makes it very easy to keep your camera next to your face. And then while you're getting used to knowing where all of your buttons are, it'll become second nature to you, which button to push and how to change your f-stop and shutter speed really, really quickly without ever taking this away from your face. For now, you'll have to take it away from your face in order to change the f-stop, shutter speed, etc. Okay, I hope that was a good overview. And you can always watch it over again, align it up to your camera and to the manual that your camera came with in order to try to process what we have gone over.